We want to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us. We're excited today because we are going to be doing a little bit of a different format. This is coming off of our Sunday in the Park, and it is dealing with our Esther series in the sense of, as we're going through Esther, we are seeing the work of the unseen God. And so today we have three different couples that just so happen to be very close friends and have a story that's connected. And we're going to be examining an experience they went through and what it is and how they have seen God through all of that. And so we're excited to have this today. So a little bit of a different format for our podcast, but it'll be great to hear from the Pratts, the Gregs, and the Rings. And so they can introduce themselves. And I was going to say something really stupid, like something awkward about yourself. But now you can just introduce yourself and one known awkward fact that you've never shared with anyone because you're embarrassed, No, but we'll start over here. For those watching, they can see it as well.
Yeah, hello. This is Travis Pratt.
Were you going to say something awkward about yourself?
I'm just constantly awkward. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was waiting for it.
Yeah.
Okay, this is...
Nice.
Hi, everyone. This is Melissa Pratt. I don't like tornadoes.
Oh, yes. That will come into play. My wife texted me, and hopefully this is in the moment. So she's like, I find it like a little bit ironic and funny that the day that you're having couples come in and talk about tornadoes, there's a tornado warning right now. I'm like, yeah, hopefully they also find it ironic and still show up. Obviously nothing touchdown that I know of, at least.
Not that I know of either.
It was a really quick warning time.
Yeah,
but, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely saw that come up.
Yeah.
I thought, man, I hope it's passed by the time
Yes.
we get there. So I'm Jamie Gregg. Not sure of awkwardness other than, I don't wear pink often, but in front of the camera, Travis and I are both in pink today.
Didn't even think about that. Awkward, yeah.
You just make it awkward, right?
Yes.
And I'm Melissa Gregg, and I was at work today when the tornado warning or watch or whatever it was went off. So there were people freaking out and the customers, so I kind of shared a little bit with them as to the story. So it was interesting that it was today.
That's neat that you got a chance to share. I will share and be transparent and vulnerable, I guess. So the fire alarm started going off. Not fire alarm, the fire hall
next door.
Like the siren started going off. I'm like, what is wrong? Like it won't turn, like it won't whine. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me, oh yeah, that's like letting everyone know there's a tornado warning. Huh. And then I got the text shortly after that from Angie. Because sometimes I'm just up here in my office and isolated. I'm not checking anything like that. But so the siren, it took me a little bit, but I realized.
I'm Daniel Ring, and my lovely wife.
I'm Catherine Ring, and I do not make it a habit to go camping when the weather's calling for tornadoes.
Yes.
We had someone ask us, you guys are educated people. I know you. Why were you camping? And we're like, no, there was no warning. We did not willingly say, we're just going to go camping with tornadoes.
Yeah, about when it was about to happen, there was no siren going off either. It caught us all by surprise, as you will hear about soon.
Yes. Any awkwardness about you guys?
Oh, we're just awkward people in general, I think.
Oh, yeah.
We're the awkward farm people from Conneaut. So.
The awkward farm people. We have a lot of farm people from Ashtabula County. Doesn't mean that's what makes you awkward. Oh. A lot of them are related to Daniel. But over the years, I remember times where your grandpa would walk in muck boots into church and I was just, I loved it. No.
I did that once accidentally.
You did that one?
I realized what I was wearing, and I took them off and wore my socks.
Shoot. Oh, you just walked right in your socks.
If you see our children barefoot, it's probably because they came with barn boots on at one point in time.
Nice. So we mentioned this already, the fact that in Esther we're looking at and examining seeing the work of the unseen God, and there's times in our life where things take place, and in the moment we might not see God at work. But you guys, for those that don't know, obviously there was a story involving camping and a tornado. And so at whatever you guys have kind of chatted about this, however you feel willing to share, because you were all in separate campers, so you all have your own version of how you experienced it. But explain a little bit of what that looked like and just some background of the story.
Yeah, so the three of us families get together pretty frequently to go and go out camping. Kind of plan for a normal night. Usually when we go out, evening time, we'll have a campfire, do s'mores and stuff. And I usually bring my guitar. We're playing some music, singing along. It was a gorgeous night out that night. I mean, you could see every star in the sky. It was just beautiful. We ended up, I think we went to bed, I don't know, somewhere around 10 o'clock or so, and sleeping away. Right about 2 a.m., I started to hear some raindrops hit the top of the ceiling. And typically, it happens, and it's louder than what you would normally have in a house because there's only, an inch of insulation above you. So that then quickly turned to heavy rain, and then quick to hail. Then wind came in, and it was fierce. The camper started shaking back and forth, and I honestly at one point thought that we were about to tip over. It was probably an exaggeration, but it really did feel about that.
Yeah, I was going to say it might not have actually been close to tipping over, but it probably felt every bit of it. Yeah,
for sure. And truthfully, Melissa sat up and she said, "What's going on?" And we had no idea what was happening at the time, because the air conditioner in our camper it's pretty loud, so we didn't hear anything coming except for the quick rain, hail, wind. And I just told her I don't know what's happening, but just stay low. So then I guess I'll transition to another family from here.
Did you want to talk?
I think you covered it pretty well. Go ahead.
So we were up on a hill, actually, a few campsites up above the Pratts and the Rings.
They never give us 3 sites in a row, ever.
Yeah. I was looking at pictures
we
today.
try,
we
but
were 2 sites down.
2 sites,
yeah.
okay. So we were kind of up, it's all on a hill, so we were up the hill a little bit so we could, see down. And we had our windows open that night. It was nice. And so we could hear the rain, and then it got heavier and heavier and heavier, and the hail started, and the wind started coming in. So we, look out the window, and we have, the little easy up, tent, and that just flew. And so I was like,
gone.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So Jamie gets out of bed and he starts rolling in. We have the electric awning. So he starts rolling in the awning from inside. And I'm just watching out the window from the bed, and I see every lightning strike. I was like, there's a tree on the camper next to us. There's a tree down in front of us. And I could hear every single tree. With every clap of thunder, every lightning bolt, I could see just another tree falling. And it was just wild. And my heart was just pounding. And I was like, I had this moment of where do we go? We can't go to the basement. What do we do? Do I go get my kids out of bed? What if I bring them over here and a tree falls on us over here? Because there was no campsite behind us. It was just trees behind us. So I was like, I see all these trees falling. One could clearly fall on us at any second. So I was like, what if I bring them over here and a tree falls on us over here? Or what if I go over there and a tree falls on us over there? So it was just that moment of where do I go? So I'm like, Jamie, where do we go? What do we do? And what did you say to me?
I just said, we're here.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go.
Yeah, that's what you said.
What ran through my mind was, we're in a campsite, and as Travis said, there's an inch of insulation, which means that's it between pop can, some insulation. and trees falling down all over the place.
Yeah.
Big trees.
Nowhere to go.
Yeah, these were like the really tall, skinny pine trees all around us
that don't have great
pretty
roots.
Dead. They look dead.
Yeah.
So the tree that was behind our camper, do you remember that tree? It was one of the biggest ones in the campground. And it was like this maple tree. It was a big maple tree that was behind us, just huge. And I was thinking to myself, if that one lets go, it's going to fold us like a taco. Like, it's just going to put us in half. So there's nowhere to go.
You would like going out like that, because I hear your favorite dinner is tacos.
That is one of my favorite. So,
man. So at this time, like, were your kids sleeping through it?
They cleaned. Yeah, we went and checked on them. Because I was like, there's no way. It's so loud. I didn't grow up by trains, but everybody says it's like a train.
Yeah,
now
it sounds
I know
like a train
it's like
coming.
The roaring,
we
the
live
rushing.
In between
now
train
we do,
tracks.
Yeah. Now I know.
It sounded like that train was coming through our house.
Yeah.
And the rocking it felt like somebody was trying to hook up a truck and just kept pushing the camper backwards further and further. And just side to side.
I think our kids were scared to death. They looked like they were sleeping, but I think they were frozen in fear. And looking back, I probably should have got them up and comforted them. But I thought they were sleeping. We both, I think, thought they were sleeping, but I really do think because it was so loud, and they said they were awake. So I think they were literally just frozen and didn't know what to do either. So you told me there's nowhere to go, and I was like, well, I know that, I guess. But it was just I asked, how long is this going to go on? So he's trying to pull it up on his phone. And right, there was no warning. So I don't even know that the
help me out here.
I mean, there's got to be a party that's I'm just as clueless, but then you also want to try to help find an answer and all that stuff. And now, were your kids up at this point? I know there's more to the story than
I guess after
but as it's shaken back and forth.
Yeah, so as you were saying about your kids, I should have chimed in a little earlier. When I bolted up in bed and I was like, Travis, what's happening? One of the other things I said was, but the kids! And he just said, get down. And so basically there was that thought of I need to save my kids, but then Travis was literally holding me down, don't move, don't go anywhere. Neither one of our kids said anything at this point in time. So Savannah's I feel like she probably would have been awake through me screaming, what's going on and what about the kids? She had to have woken up. Ben is a pretty deep sleeper.
Yeah, he slept through the whole thing.
I think he legit did sleep through the whole thing. Savannah told us after the fact that she was awake the whole time and she was terrified because at the back of our camper, the kids have a bunk bed. Savannah was on the top bunk. And looking back on it, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if anything came through the roof, she's a foot away from the top of our camper. Mm-hmm. I didn't think about that at the time because I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know things were falling from above downward. For all I know, there's a river rushing in and we're ready to go whitewater rafting in the camper down the river. We had no idea what was going on because we couldn't see outside and it was pitch black.
Or if Bigfoot was just messing with you and shaking it back and forth.
We knew that we were shaking.
We can laugh now because it's so far on the other side. Yeah.
But we were shaking. Yeah. But it was pitch black outside other than these flashes of lightning. But we had the shades on our curtains or on our windows were down. So we had no visibility of what was going on outside. So had no idea that things were falling from up above. If I had realized that at the time, I certainly would have at least screamed for her to jump down off of the top bunk. But because we had no idea what was going on, we all just kind of stayed put. And the kids never made a sound. It was only after the fact that we found out that Savannah was awake and she was terrified. And probably like the Greg kids, just frozen in fear. Mm. And then Ben was apparently totally oblivious to everything that was happening.
Violet and Fletcher both said that they were awake, and when we checked on them, that they were looking back at us and didn't know what to do and just froze. But they were frozen. Yeah. There's nothing that we couldn't see into their beds where they were.
Yeah.
And it seems like when we were looking outside, the flashes of lightning were so constant you could see outside, but not really inside. And I forgot about the window that we had open. It's one of those windows that you turn to the side or you prop in and then you push it outward. Mm-hmm. It pulled that out, and that window was just flapping like crazy at one point in time. Yeah. Until I grabbed a hold of it and pulled it back in.
Yeah. Now, how about with you guys?
So, this is not to brag. We had one of the worst campers at the end of all of this. There was one other family that had their camper probably equally damaged, and that gentleman actually broke his arm. But for us, it was really exciting. New camper to us, first time taking it out. Real stoked. Yeah. We upgraded from a pop-up. This was going to be the best camping trip ever. We had 2 doors. Each kid had like their legit own space. So that evening, don't sleep real well. Campground, new camper, just kind of restless. I rolled over like midnight, checked the weather. Nothing crazy, said some rain. And my thoughts are, did we pull the camp chairs under enough? We're not going to be able to cook breakfast. The wood's going to be wet. We didn't cover it. Like all those silly things. And then around 2, I'm laying there half awake, half asleep, and you could hear the rain coming, and then all of a sudden they said, it is that freight train sound, and I just remember sitting up in bed and going, that's not rain, that's wind. And I said, Daniel, the awning. And typical me, he was like, there's nothing you could do about it. And I probably would have just rolled back over and been like, gruff, fine, whatever, have an attitude. Yeah. For whatever reason, I got out of bed to continue arguing about the awning that was now very violently flapping that I thought I was definitely going to save because it was going to get ripped off our brand new camper. Yeah. And he said to me, get the children. I'm worried this camper is going to tip. Get the girls. So I went to the other end of the camper, and this guttural motherly scream came out of me, and I yelled, girls, and they flew up out of their little bed and grabbed me. And when they did that, the whole camper just bounced and shook violently, and I just remember not realizing it. But a moment later, I looked up, and there was a tree where the girls were just laying seconds ago. Yeah. I'm looking for Daniel, and I can hear him, and he's going, I can't find him. Well, a second later, I felt fuzzy pajama pants touching me, and it was Jonah standing next to me, and I realized Daniel was looking for Jonah, and hearing him panic because he couldn't find Jonah. Jonah was sleeping in our slide out, which had gotten ripped off and was now laying on the side of the ground. I mean, the pictures are wild. And we asked Jonah, I think Jamie asked Jonah what made him get out of bed. He's like, I don't know. I just got up to see what was going on.
Because he had gotten up right before that part got ripped off.
Later to find out while we were laying there, the power was flickering on and off. So like the microwave would beep every time it would come back on or off. So everyone was kind of awake.
Yeah, but wondering what's happening, what's going on.
Yeah, but pretending to ignore it kind of thing too. Like Travis said, it happens. We've been camping where it rains before, and it's just so much louder. It's usually, we're in the pop-up, so we don't have canvas. Our camper, the ends were like a pop-up. They're just canvas. It's not hard shell on the ends. But then when I got up and turned around, that's when I saw where Daniel and I were sleeping was completely crushed. In the morning, we would realize if we did not get out of bed, we both very more than likely would have been dead. Mm-hmm. The neighbors came rushing over later and were like asking all night. We kept hearing people, is anyone in there? Are you alive? Like the one neighbor was like, I thought I was pulling bodies out of that camper. Yeah. But after I found Jonah, I remember saying, I got him. And I turned around and I looked at Daniel. We had 2 doors on our camper, but they both were on the side. They were just completely crushed. And the slide out was ripped off. And that's how we were able to even get out of the camper. And the Pratts were the site right next to our right. So we managed to somehow make it through the debris and the trees to get up. And I just remember pounding on their door. And they opened the door, white-faced and confused as to what was going on. Our little dog Charlie was the first. He jumped right in their camper and was like, doink, I'm out. I'm like, let me in. Yeah. So we all piled in there. And that's when I turned and I looked at Melissa. And it's still not resonating tornado. Like, through all of that, even when we were standing there as adults under in their camper talking, we still weren't thinking tornado. And I just remember looking at Melissa and go, my baby's almost died. And that's when I finally broke down. And then as we were standing there, that's when the water just started pouring out of the light in their camper. We just had a little trash can. We just were like, oh, we'll just ignore this.
Yeah.
And then we proceeded to lay there for 4 hours listening to chainsaws all night long, all pretending to try to sleep or figure out what we were doing till the sun came up because it was just...
Yeah, the chainsaws all night. And there was an ambulance, too.
Yeah.
So we heard sirens, and we were like, how is an ambulance even driving through this campground, because there's no path that is straight. There are just trees and
everywhere,
debris just everywhere. But I guess we had found out afterwards, like, just neighbors from the local community came with chainsaws and were just literally cutting trees all night long to clear a path for people to get through. But yeah, all night it was chainsaws.
Well, that was the other thing. We were there all day the next day because we couldn't get out because they had to clear the whole park to even get people out. So, what do you?
Yeah, and for me, I was at the front of the camper after I yelled at her to get the kids, and I turned to get Jonah because he was sleeping in the slide out. And as soon as I turned is when everything shook in the whole camper. It was almost like a car crash where you just don't know what happened. It was done. And the slide out was gone where Jonah was laying. And then I was like, so I had to make a decision. I didn't know how they were. Are they alive back there in the back of the camper? Do I jump out and try to find Jonah? I was like, okay. Then I heard their voice, and I was like, okay, they're at least alive. Because I had no idea, because you can't even see your hand in front of your face, except for the lightning. So I jumped outside and jumped into what was left of the slide out. And like you said, you can't see anything. You're just digging. You're just stepping
trying
on glass.
To
you're
find
just
the feeling of body.
Like, it's like what am I gonna find? It's like it's like it's just that. And then when she yelled that he was in there, it was like such a relief. Like because
yeah, you're in your pajamas. You don't have it's dark. You're
and
so
it's going through your mind,
disoriented.
am I gonna find a dead kid? Like it was like it was dramatic at the time, but just the relief of when she said he was in there, I was like, and then
he just goes, I just stood up.
And then I yelled for them, like, get out here, and I didn't realize at the time if that slide out wasn't gone, we probably wouldn't be able to get out as easy, but
he'll tell people, I stood up and I went to go back to bed and my bed was gone. But his trauma, he still does not care to sleep alone. He gets very upset. He had his own room and he prefers to sleep with the girls on the floor or even on the floor of our room, and he just says, you sleep with someone and I have to sleep alone. I always have to sleep alone. And so he still definitely struggles with the after effect of it. And the girls get weary when there's certain storms. I'm sure all the children do. Like the storm today, they saw we were watching it and they were watching too, but they've come a long way. But Jonah by far has the most. Rose will say that scream. She's like, your scream will haunt me for forever. I said, it haunts me too. But when you're a mom, you'll understand.
Yeah. Now, you guys, at what point did they connect with you? Because it seems like you were up on the hill a little bit, isolated. They were forced in together. Was there any cell service?
So
like
there was.
Okay.
It was like right after all of the shaking and wind had subsided, my phone rings and I see Travis is calling me. It's like, okay, but I think everything's passed. So he calls. I say, hey, what's going on? He said, are you okay up there? I said, yeah, we're fine. My awning flew away. Or I got my awning on the camper end, but my pop-up
flew away.
It's gone. I had parked underneath the tail of the bed of my truck, pulled under that because I saw when we were going to bed that there was a 30% chance of rain. That's it, just 30%. Yeah. So I said, okay, I'll park underneath this, and I told Travis when we were on the phone, yeah, my pop-up's gone. Where's your did you lose your pop-up in that? And he said it's flat. It's flat. And I said, what else? And he said, the Rings camper is flat. It's flat. They're in here with us.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, dude, I can see. He's like, there's a tree that hit our camper. I don't know if it's still on it, but there's a branch coming down through. And he mentioned that there's water coming in through the light. And I was like, I don't know that can you sleep in there? Can you make it up here? We're I think we survived everything. There's no problem. And I looked out and I said, dude, there's a tree on top of your truck.
Yeah.
And he's like, is it touching it? Or is it? I was like, yeah, it's.
Yeah,
maybe it's just
touching.
Maybe it's just touching. It's probably okay.
If any of you know Travis and vehicles,
yeah,
he's very particular about it. So
his brand new to him vehicle that he had just acquired also.
It was a 24-inch diameter tree.
Yeah.
On top of it.
Yeah.
Just touching. It was just touching, though.
It was
definitely
touching.
It was touching a lot of it.
Yes.
As soon as I heard that they were, I don't know, I just was like, I gotta go down there. I have to go see my friends. I have to go and see that they're alive, because I just have watched this whole thing unfold and heard all of this.
Yeah, you
and then
guys saw the trees.
Yeah, I could see like every.
Yeah.
Maybe not every one, but I could hear every single one. And when I saw that how many were down, I was like, every one of those is a tree coming down. And it was, so I just got my shoes on and I was like gone. I just walked down there to see them. And I had to see them.
Yeah, so she goes down and she gets Jonah and Azalea?
Yeah, I think
Jonah and
Jonah.
One of the girls.
For sure.
Yeah.
And comes back. And that's when I asked Jonah, I was like, because we heard that the slide out was crushed. I said, Jonah, how are you alive?
Yeah.
And he, in his sweet little voice that Jonah has, he said, the camper was shaking and it was so loud and I got scared, so I stood up, but I was still tired, so I went to sit down and my bed was gone.
Yeah.
So it was like
fraction
boom,
of a second
is when it happened, and he got up right then and there. Yeah, that was incredible. And then you said the chainsaws and the sirens were going. So when you brought the girls back, I was like, I need to go help. I need to go do something. So there I am. I strap up in my sandals and my shorts, and I go out and I start walking around like I need to find like people. And I walk into a tree, and there's a tree.
Because it's still 2 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
So let me go this way. Okay, there's a tree there. So I'm going to go, and there's a tree there. How did I get here? Like, I don't know if I can get out. And
I have trees on all sides, and I'm not sure how I got here.
And there was nothing till the morning.
No, there was no moving, and I quickly realized, you know what? This is not what I'm supposed to do. I need to be back at the camper just comforting
with your family and friends
there.
and
because there's sirens going. They're much more equipped than me and my flip-flops right now to deal with
yes.
But morning light, there was the golf cart in the tree was pretty impressive.
I forgot about the golf cart.
And so we were right across the field, and then there was woods on the other side of the field, so you could look out and see where it came through the wood line, and then literally it passed right over where we were. Was it F2? I think is what it was rated at. Yep. That's what we found out later. So, and they said no warning. The people were like, "Why didn't you put out a broadcast?" And they said it was just the perfect storm, and it just popped up and literally took everyone by surprise. So
it was super quick because obviously you guys were sleeping, but like you said, it went from like 0 to 100 real fast. There's a little bit of rain, and then the hail, and then the wind, and then and it just everything broke down. And especially if you're middle of the night sleep mode, it just everything's moving differently so much, anyways. So obviously when tragedies hit and when things like this take place in the moment or even throughout all of it and afterwards, it's really easy to blame God and target God because God can do all. He could have pushed that storm somewhere else. He could have dissolved that storm. He could have made it so that there was actually only a 30% chance of rain, like the forecast said. And he didn't. In spite of that, how did you see that God was at work and, God went before you even in this?
Oh my gosh, even just that we're all alive.
Yeah.
That we made it. And that is one sentence I will never forget you saying, and I may butcher the way the words came out, but the message will resonate with me forever. When Catherine came into our camper and said, "My kids almost died," or "My kids could have just almost died."
Yeah.
Like, as a mom, that just pierces you. Like, because then you start thinking, like, if you're a parent, you are responsible for your kids. Like, part of your role as a parent is to keep your kids alive, right? To keep them safe, to keep them unharmed. We can't obviously shield them from everything, but to hear that panic in another mom's voice that her kids almost died, it just, wow, that was just so real, and I will never forget that.
And even with you guys, that 24-inch tree, if it was slightly to the side.
Yeah, truthfully, exactly where my truck was parked, if it hadn't have been there, that 24-inch tree would have come down right on Melissa and I.
Yeah.
So God ordained me to park at that place. Mm-hmm. And, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Just parking.
Yep. I was going to say it literally with very little thought.
Right.
I was like, okay, this is where it is.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's every time I talk about it or share it, it's just there's more and more things that you look at that you're like, that was totally God's hand in it, and He does care about those things, and it is a miracle, but it is because of the Lord that we have that miracle to look back on. And going through Esther, we say God's not mentioned by name in the book of Esther, but you see His providence and His hand in it. And so that is very much that situation. It happened so fast. We weren't necessarily on our knees praying right then and there in a moment, but God was there, and He was every step of the way. The fact that we had that camper, the fact that we left the awning up and I stood up to yell about the awning, the girls listened the first time I screamed their name. The fact that Jonah stood up.
Do they not normally listen the first time?
Yeah, you would like to think.
Yeah.
Just so many. The fact that Daniel stood up too. I mean, and this other scary thing, they're pine trees, right? So they're like those jagged spears. So when they land, they puncture everything. And when we turned around and looked back later, you could see where Daniel was standing, and the camper kind of did crush him. And like you said, it's like a car wreck. Like, you feel things later. You're like, oh yeah, that does hurt. I did get kind of hurt.
Yeah.
But to see those spikes sticking through the camper roof and realizing like not a single one of them hit him, running through the glass.
Anyone.
Getting through the glass to get the fact that the slide out was ripped off seems terrible, but also the only way we were able to get out of that camper that night without someone helping us out. There's just, the fact that we were all together is another big one for me. That next day, the weather was another almost gorgeous day despite everything. And
the slides were closed.
Yes, the slides were closed. The kids checked. They were very worried about the condition of the cheese slides.
Cheese slides were destroyed.
But the fact that we were all together with friends that we knew and trusted, friends that are like family, that are there to support. So at any point in time, the kids were all playing.
They were having a blast playing with all the debris that washed down from all the water.
Trying to find all the shoes.
Ben found all kinds of treasures. He still has like a tiki torch thing that came off of some campsite up the hill that came washing down. He's got it in the corner of his bedroom right now to this day.
Yeah.
It's a treasure for him. But they were just playing in the water, just having a good old time like nothing happened the night before.
But none of us were alone. We all had each other. So like when Pratt had to deal with their insurance guy, there were other parents there to help keep an eye on their crew when we were figuring out what we were doing. And when the Gregs were instrumental. I mean, they took your kiddos home while you waited for your brother or parents or crew to come get you. So it was another thing you don't think about. Like if you were there alone, how much
it would have looked very, very different.
So we all had each other there.
I think for me, like God going before, like I had this foundation that I actually did have time to pray, because when Jamie was saying there's nowhere to go, you can't really do anything, I was like, what can I do? And it just came to me, I can pray. That's all I can do right now is I can pray. So I just was cuddled up on the bed in front of this window, watching and just praying over and over, God, just keep everyone in this campground safe. Just be with us all, help us to get through this. Just the same prayer over and over and over. But I had that assurance that he heard me and that he was listening, and that was my role in that moment. Like, I just felt that peace. And I think so going before me, like, he's, given me this life that I could build this foundation on him. And I think that was the part that I was supposed to do in that moment. Like, I just felt that peace about it at that time.
For sure. And I think it's just in the reality of, where can we go? And it's like, okay, so then I'm going to start praying.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go to God, and, and just how crucial that was in the moment for everyone. Now, often as you go through things like that, you can recognize God, you can see God's hand in all of it, but then there's also an element of wrestling through some hard questions. The what ifs become convicting of, well, wait, why am I asking those what ifs? And then all of a sudden, partly the Holy Spirit working through things, and then the enemy attacking with lies can really be a process to work through stuff, even after you see God's hand in all of it. So what was that process like for you guys as individuals? Where was that difficult to work through those hard questions that inevitably came up from that? And as you were facing those hard questions and working through them, what scriptures did you rely on, and where did you find yourself turning back to the Word in order to remind yourself of the truth of who God is?
My personal struggle was brand new camper to us. Super nice, super thankful for it. That evening I took a little picture and I was like, Lord, thank you for this. I was chuffed to have it, and it was gone. And you think, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. And unfortunately, everyone at the campgrounds, oh, it's replaceable, your family's alive. They weren't wrong. And it sounds callous, but yes, they were fine. So it's easy to move on and be like, oh, they're fine. Now the big focus is the smashed camper. We unfortunately did not have the right insurance on it, so we did not get insurance to replace it. We still haven't been able to replace it. So there are times where it's hard and you feel that bitterness sometimes building up. Lord, I don't understand. And that's still something. There's times I find myself still working through and not necessarily understanding. But then I think it was an upgrade from that pop-up, and that camper saved the Lord used that camper to save our life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I don't think I ever questioned what if. It was just, as soon as we got in the Pratt camper and we got settled down, it was just, the only thing I could pray is thank you, thank you, thank you. And it was, I don't know, I felt at peace at the time, and of course this is my second tornado I've been through, so.
Tornado pro over here.
Yeah, what other one did you go through? Was there one that came through Ohio?
Yeah, when I was working on a farm, there's one that came through, and I was outside.
Okay.
Anyways, it
that had to be an experience.
It was an experience, so I kind of went through those emotions before, so I kind of, I don't know. It was but I just looked. I didn't look at it as, God, why'd you send this to happen? I just looked at it as like, wow, look what you did in spite of all what happened. That's my perspective on it, and that's about it.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't realize that you had been through another tornado. I also. This was tornado number 2 for me.
Why do we camp with you guys?
Jamie's like, this is bad.
Well, you guys were fine, so.
True story.
Yeah. He's not superstitious. He's a little stitious. Does anybody get that reference?
I've been there. Yeah.
The Office. Okay, thank you. At least someone did. Yeah.
But
yeah. What other tornado?
5 years prior, I believe, 2018 at Rolling Fields.
Okay, mm-hmm. That's right.
That was a tornado that ripped the roof off of one of the hallways of the nursing home.
Yeah.
And then there was an apartment building. Well, I say apartment building. It was basically like a duplex that was right next door. It was basically 2 apartments that were just connected. It was just a 1-story building. And that one, I think, there was a woman left standing in her, I don't know if it was her living room or her bedroom, but like 3 of her 4 walls were gone and totally destroyed.
Yeah.
And so that was an experience too. So like Daniel said, I've been through something like this before, but at the time, like, it's not registering like this is a tornado, this is what's happening, because at this moment, well, for the first tornado that I was in, we knew we had like a 3-minute warning. We knew, okay, a tornado's coming, you got 3 minutes. So everybody was kind of getting into the hallways, away from the windows. This one
Buckle
here
down the hatches,
at camp, there was no warning, and we didn't know what was going on. So in that respect, it was different. But I liked what you said about when you look back on it, it's not looking back like, why did you allow this, God? But looking back on it, like, look at what you saved us through.
Yeah.
So I know, like, to this day, speaking for myself and maybe for our kids, because sometimes when it's storm, like, I was never bothered by storms prior to this tornado. Now, whenever it gets windy, I can be anywhere from just like a little bit nervous to like tears running down my face because I'm remembering what we went through last year. But I'm trying to train my brain, right? I'm trying to make a new habit, and I'm still in the process. I'm very much a work in progress here, but I'm trying to think when I am afraid and when those sounds, like when it starts raining and when it starts sounding like it's getting harder and there's thunder and then there's the flashes of lightning and it's really windy and I hear things sliding across our deck or whatever. I just hear the trees, the leaves rustling outside. I'm trying to tell myself, don't get scared because you know what can happen from this. Use this as a reminder of what God has saved you from. So I'm trying to go through that. And like I said, it's still a process. Like there's still fear. Sometimes there's still tears. There's still like grabbing onto Travis's arm, like, please, like help me get through this. And he's just like, I'll roll over and go back to sleep. Like, but I'm freaking out here. He's like, just be quiet. I need to get up early tomorrow for work. So then I'm like, okay, God, it's me and you. And I'm going to try to just remember this is like, you saved me through this before. If you choose to save me through, like if this, I'm thinking in my mind, the worst is going to happen again. So if you choose to save me again, so be it. But if not, I'm good with you. Like our relationship is solid. I know where I'm going. Yeah. So like Jamie was saying earlier, like, where's the bad in it? You're either physically safe or physically, worst case scenario, you die, but you're present with the Lord. Yeah. So I'm trying to like train my brain to think those calm thoughts and think about how God saved us through that rather than think about it and highlight the negative. I'm trying to highlight definitely the miracle, the positive that we experienced through that.
Yeah. What verses do you guys go to, whether it's in times of stress or maybe it was just after the storm?
So as Melissa had just said, and I was talking about downstairs before we came up here, we had just gone through, our Sunday school class had just gone through Daniel, and I don't know how this didn't hit me as we were, going through the study, but as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were faced with, hey, thou shalt worship this idol, or you're going to be thrown in the fiery furnace, they said, you know what? No, we're not. Our God will protect us. He is good. But even if he doesn't, he's still good. Yeah. And that was even during the tornado going through. I was terrible at verbalizing it. Yeah. There in the moment when I was like, we're
you should
here,
ask
there's
Travis for
go.
some pointers. He's good at comforting. Sorry, I had to.
So
but yeah, there's nowhere.
Freak out quieter.
Yeah.
Gotta get up early.
So yeah, that's the scripture that I kind of that has come to me now later on. That I was sitting there, I'm seeing trees fly and fall, and thinking to myself, I do remember this maple tree that I, almost bumped into as I was stabilizing the camper to the ground. If that thing falls on us, we're going to die. My only thought was, you know what? I'm a child of God.
Yeah.
If this is it, this is it. We're together.
Yeah.
That's all I have. And now we're even going through Esther and reflecting on, Esther's story when Haman was looking to destroy the Jews, and Mordecai came to her and said, look, you need to go to the king. And she said, I really can't do that. But then she went into telling everybody, fast for me, and this is what I'm going to do. And she kind of had that feeling of, if I die, I die. But I'm going to save my people, or at least I'm going to give it a go. And not necessarily were we faced with the, you will worship or you will die. But when the incoming of fear is swirling all around us, and we were faced with certain death, I was given a peace and a comforting knowing that, God is good, and if he chooses to take us home, he's still good. So that's what came to me.
And there's experiences I've never experienced, and when people describe it, I try to be like, man, what would that... I can't imagine what would it be like sitting there seeing trees flying and just like, oh, wow. Are they hitting our friends' campers? Are they going to hit our camper? Are they, like just what that thought process would even be like.
Yeah. And afterwards, like when Travis had called me, I guess actually it was after the sun had come up and we started to walk around and assess damage. We lost 4 things. Yeah. We lost our pop-up that got folded in half. We lost my side view mirror, the plastic on my truck, and we lost
Violet's sandals.
2 of Violet's Crocs.
Yep.
So they were
gone.
her
purple Crocs.
So those
Counting that as 2.
Those were our 4 items that we lost.
Instead of what? Yeah.
Did we lose anything else? I think that was
I
it.
wasn't really counting.
Yeah. And then
We found the mirror.
yeah,
The
Rose
kids found the mirror,
and
please.
running around
Of
and
course,
like
yes.
celebrating afterwards. Not celebrating, but
Yeah,
running
but
through
just-
this muddy, murky creek now that's behind our camper, and the remnants of the other campers. Rose comes out and says, "Mr. Jamie, look, I found your mirror," and she's holding it in hand. She's like, "We were 2 campgrounds down and found it. Here it is."
Mind you,
and
out
it
of
popped
everyone in
right
that,
back on.
out of everyone in that campground,
No
Jamie
damage.
would have been okay if a tree landed on
Right.
his truck.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
unscathed.
Yes.
It was-
Yeah, and
You're
I
the
jokingly
one.
said, you know what, I would have been all right had my truck been destroyed.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were blessed to not have that much damage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think about Philippians 4, 6, and 7. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. So that definitely came to me in the storm. Just pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for all he has done. Yeah, we're definitely thankful. When I look back, I don't really, like you said, struggle with the what if. It was just the gratefulness. And then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus. So I definitely felt that peace once I was praying, and it definitely surpassed the circumstances that we were in.
For sure. How about with you guys? Any verses
Yeah,
that...
we kind of came up with a family verse. So we started joking when the tree fest was coming around. We're like, oh, we're not going to do one. And the kids were like, we should do a tornado tree.
I still think that was one
So
of the more
we did a tornado
creative
tree,
things.
and either you understood or people were just really confused at our sense of humor.
Yeah, that's a sick sense of humor.
But
No. Like,
Daniel and I came up with a Bible verse together. We found one together. It was Psalms 34:7. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them. And when you look up the meaning of encamp, it is a resting place or to settle in and establish. So the angel of the Lord establishes himself or rests around those who fear him, and he delivers them. And then the other pun was, it says encamp and camping.
Yes.
So it's just a fun little one for us to remember and look back on. But that's one that we come back to. Usually when it's stormy, we kind of say it out loud or something like that. So it hits a little different when you put it into perspective like that for us.
Yeah, and I think you guys have already mentioned this a little bit, but really the only long-term effects of this is how you and your kids feel when a big storm comes, correct? Mm-hmm. A couple material things, and material things, whether they should or shouldn't, they still affect us, when something's lost. But that's a lot easier to deal with, obviously when everyone got out healthy. But not that that's not a thing, but you guys have, besides that, there isn't any long-standing effects, correct?
You did.
I mean,
I feel like
immediately afterwards?
Not immediately,
not now.
but no, you're long.
Yeah, not now.
Right.
But like if you wanted to talk about your point here of things that you struggled with
so,
in that time.
And I feel a little bit set up on this one, but we'll get there. So I'm naturally just a very type A kind of personality that I'm going to make a plan, I'm going to do it. If I don't do it, it's not going to get done. So I do put a lot of that kind of stuff on myself. And going through this, it really kept adding up on me afterwards because, I was trying to play this husband role of where I need to be there and support my wife and support my kids. This is the setup part because, I told you to go back to sleep.
Yeah.
But, so that really started to weigh on me afterwards to the point where it pretty much crushed me. And I had no option but to give everything over to the Lord and realize that there's nothing that I was going to do in my power and that ultimately He is in charge of everything. So what really hit me was in Luke 12, and this is Jesus talking here. It's verses 22 to 31. He says, and he said to his disciples, "Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat, nor about your body, what you put on. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothing. Consider the ravens, they neither sow nor reap. They have neither storehouse nor barn, and yet God feeds them. Of how much more value are you than the birds? And which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? If then you are not able to do as small a thing as that, why are you anxious about the rest?" And so when I found that, it just broke me to that point that I needed to get to. And this is, as we talked about us studying Daniel, there are times that the Lord will put us into situations like this in order to break us to the point where we realize that we need Him and we need to rely on Him. So now I do it every day when I get up. I acknowledge that because I know that if I don't do it, I'm going to go right back to the way that I was, and I'm going to take control and try to do everything in my own power. So now it's Lord, what can I do for you instead of opposite.
Yeah, for sure. And it'd be so nice if we actually learned differently, but sometimes we don't learn until we're taken to the breaking point.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes you need hit with a tree.
Yeah, exactly.
Taking a little far.
Yeah.
5 of them was a little too many. Maybe.
I would have learned it one.
Yeah, but just thinking back to your own struggle with that, like, I remember Travis saying he was frustrated because he couldn't stop that storm from happening.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was a tornado. Like,
like,
you're a human being. You're not going to stop
nature
from, like, if the wind is howling to the point where there's trees just snapping in half like they're toothpicks left and right everywhere. Like, I couldn't understand it. But I guess it makes sense, like, that so much type A that, like, you were angry and upset that you couldn't control the fact that there were trees falling all around us and on us.
Right.
And there was a point during that next day that you could see that just pouring out of you when we, sun came up and there's Travis fixing mode. I am going to repair whatever I can with this.
Piece
you were
together
saying
easy ups.
I can use this piece of this truck that's now underneath this.
Yeah.
Hey, this easy up, I'm going to try to repair this. And at the time, I could see it in you, and I thought, I just need to tell you, dude, let it go. But you were not in that place, so I was like, hey,
he wouldn't have heard you.
My easy up's over there. You can go steal places.
We now use that easy up. It's in the back.
He did succeed in fixing it.
Oh, man.
Everybody's got tornado remnants.
That's usually we pull something out and we're like, oh, this has been tornadoed. That's a
But you could see that you were struggling through that still.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it was probably a month afterwards that really hit me. And it's been so freeing.
Yeah.
To let that go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it there were some other things in your life that led, because obviously with your job and all of the stuff piling up there and a worker strike that, again, you can't control.
Right.
And it's like, wait a second, like, this is, all those different things that took place really got you to the point that God needed to get you to.
Right.
To recognize that. So how, is there anything as we wrap up that you guys would love to, touch base on that you haven't already, as far as how this has changed your faith and understanding of God's providence in your life?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm pretty much the opposite of Travis. I don't know how we get along, but we do.
I thought you were going to say you comfort your wife all the time. And, I should really move on.
His last name is Ring, if you forgot.
Yeah, that is true. That is
hey, I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
But
if you put ketchup on those sandwiches,
Let the man talk.
Hey, ketchup and ham go together. Okay, just kidding.
Okay, so you put ketchup on your ham sandwiches?
Yeah.
Okay, anyways.
Awkward. There's awkward.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, oh, whatever happens, happens. That's the way I go.
Yeah.
And I'm always default to the, I was unlucky. My joke is that I'm super unlucky. I'm like the unluckiest person. But so through that, it made me realize to look for God in everything. Not just to throw everything up to, 2 inches closer, be dead. And oh, am I lucky? No, it was that. It was too many things that had to be perfect to happen the way it happened. And so for me, it changed my perspective to look for God in everything versus, I was just unlucky, but no, God's saying something through that. So.
Yeah. I've also noticed that in just the mediocre things, because a lot of times it's easy to praise the Lord when big things happen.
Yeah.
But even in mediocre things, you see that a lot more prevalent now.
For me personally, it's that realization, like Melissa said, like Lord, protect me, and if not, I'm good. And it's remembering to be in that mindset of I'm good, and then wanting to share that with other people and that don't have that security. And that was the biggest thing, is even at the campground, that we don't know how you survive. That's me. It was the Lord. Like just getting to tell people like this was God, and just that reality. You hear it, you know it, we believe it as Christians, but I am good, and wanting to share that with others and make sure they truly are good also.
Yeah, I went to, without giving too much away, went to a funeral home recently, and there was just so little hope of Jesus in the room. And in that moment, I was praying through, and I didn't feel like it was my time, because I was not super close to those there. But I didn't feel like it was my time to be like, hey, this is the first time I've met you. So sorry for your loss. Really what the problem is you don't have Jesus. That's not the time to,
Right.
And I prayed that someone would come in their life, or if somehow I engaged, with them differently and had that opportunity. But it is one of those things that's so eye-opening to those that go through stuff and have no hope. It's crazy.
Going through a tragedy, we lost stuff. Going through a traumatic.
A traumatic, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Violet was traumatized by the loss of her Crocs.
So that was
She was
somewhat long term.
Yeah.
That was seriously. She had the gibbets all where she wanted them to be in these Crocs. And
They looked all day long. Those kids hunted.
Yeah.
I never even knew those things. I mean, that is something that I never knew existed or would have ever known if it wasn't for kids.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember, the gibbets are big. But anyways,
She needed, comforting and have my gibbets back. But anyway, going through a traumatic event like that, and with the group that we went through it with, in seeing, I think that happened on a Friday?
It was August 25th. So
was
yes,
a
it was
day
a
of the
Friday.
week.
Well,
Friday,
Thursday. We got there Thursday.
Yeah, we got there
night.
Thursday. It was Friday night. It happened.
Thursday night.
Thursday
Thursday
night.
night.
It was
night
the
it
first
happened.
night
It was
there.
our bonus. We had 4
But it was
nights.
after
So-
midnight, so it would have been the
We
next
were-
day.
Whatever that next day was, we had to wait together. We didn't have to. We got to wait together. We were all together. The kids were having fun.
Yeah.
We were able to comfort each other. We were together the following day at a camp out at the Rings house, and we just got together and just were together. So
Yeah.
the blessing of the kids still running around and playing, everybody unharmed, us being able to talk through that. And I think we even all went to church that Sunday as well. And you may have come up to us and said, hey, I thought you were camping. And we were like, yeah, we were supposed to be. Let me tell you a story.
I had no clue.
Yeah.
But, I usually insert my foot in my mouth all the time when I say stuff. So
It was great.
Yeah.
we had fun.
Physically, we were all fine. So how would you have a
why
clue?
why are you guys here? Yeah.
Yeah, going through that traumatic event, seeing the blessing that was of the group that we had together, and we're all going camping again. To go through that, we've learned, or I've learned, that we are more like family now, going through a traumatic event, and we are brothers and sisters of God.
Yeah.
We all have each other, and we're all looked at. We're all looked over, and God is good. And even if not protecting us, God is still good.
Yeah. And that, it was interesting because, a lot of things. Daniel's been coming up, not because I'm in the Sunday school class with you guys, but we went and saw, I almost didn't even say that. That's
Why?
Oh, man. So, I was talking to Emery recently, and I was like, hey, the podcast came up, and she's like, I was on the podcast once. Remember when we had a bunch of kids on it or whatever? And I'm like, Emery, if you were back on, what would you want to talk about? She's like, probably Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And just to but we went to, long story short, a while ago we told our parents, no more gifts, do experiences for Christmas. We don't want more junk, and my parents were like, absolutely, that'd be great. So we've actually gone down to, what's the theater?
Sight and Sound.
Yeah, Sight and Sound the last 3 years, and this year was Daniel, and it was tremendous. We went as an entire family over spring break, all my siblings and all the nieces and nephews, and they did a tremendous job on Daniel, and that was what Emery. So her and Mal have been really engaged with the book of Daniel since then, and just she's like, well, I would know the story and all the different things of why they didn't, and so it's cool that you guys kept bringing that up and referencing that, and it is a tremendous book.
We're going next week.
Are you?
Yeah.
Emery will have some very good conversations with Violet. Yeah, because she still loved that. But, well, thank you guys very much for the conversation, and thank you for being willing to share it Sunday in the Park. It is something that, whatever it is, it might not be a tornado, but we all go through things. And so it is great encouragement to be reminded where our security lies, where our identity lies, and in those times of trouble, to be pointed back to Christ is so crucial. So thank you for that reminder from all of you. I pray that the anxiousness around storms for you guys and your kids continues in the direction of not being something that is always with you moving forward. And if it is, may it be a reminder, like you said, Melissa, that of God's faithfulness, and to point there. Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see you next week on the Federated Squared Circle, Wrestling with God's Word. Have a great week.